Hi everyone, I'd like you to meet Sarah. Sarah will introduce herself.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I see we have some ladies and a few gentlemen as well with us. And yes, I'd like to welcome you into our caregiving community here in Israel. Very brave of you all to come and be apart from your family, friends, culture, and take this big challenge onto you. And we have prepared, as Anat and Margareta have already perhaps told you, a program to try to assist you. Basically, our purpose is to try to take care of the caregivers as much as we possibly can. And yes, we want you to think of us as having your back and most in any issues. So we've prepared a few subjects that we thought might be worthwhile to spend some time to think about. And I'm going to talk about, I have a PowerPoint presentation here that I'm going to share. 1 minute. Share the screen. Okay. Everyone can see this. Okay, good.
Perfect.
So the subject for today that I want to talk a little bit about is culture and values in the relationship with the elderly patient. So we assume that most of your patients will be elderly people, disabled. Perhaps some will be younger, but mostly disabled elderly. And we want to talk about basic values in our work. Actually, our personality is our toolbox. I think we all know that. And the more we spend, the more time we spend on becoming more sensitive and more attuned to our own needs and to our clients' needs, I think the better people we become, and I think the better our toolbox as caregivers is enhanced. So first thing we want to talk about is what are basic values in the caregiving work. Well, I think that, we all share the same values all over the world, but more so relevant in terms of caregiving. So first of all, we'll talk about human dignity. We'll talk about autonomy, tolerance, empathy, compassion, and care. I think all of those terms are part of our work. So what do these values mean in the caregiving work? Well, human dignity, a value that refers to a person's unique trait as a person. Dignity is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake and to be treated ethically. Respect your patient's humanity, privacy, thoughts, feelings, opinions, beliefs, and his body, and maintain your patient's privacy and dignity. And that there's a little bit of chatter outside my window. Do you hear that as background noise? Should I close the window?
We can hear it.
Okay, so maybe I'll close the window. It's kind of an echo here. One minute.
Do you still have
Sorry.
oxygen? Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. It's time for school kids to come home, and they're right underneath my window. Okay. So, I just want to make it clear that I'm talking about values. I'll go into detail, and I invite you to share as well. We're a small group, and we have this time that we've allocated to discussing important issues about our work. And I invite you and encourage you to participate. I'm going to talk about these things, and in about 20 minutes or a half hour, we're going to pause, and I will invite you to comment or share experiences that you've had in the past in caregiving or situations that may be relevant to things we talk about. And of course, if you share with each other, this is the most beneficial part. So again, human dignity. I think that when you're disabled and elderly and have lost so many things in your life, abilities in terms of mobility and work and family, where you are, people that you've loved, that have maybe not part of your life anymore, or the status that you had in your family or in your community. So many losses people that are disabled have to deal with. And part of our job is to try to maintain their dignity in the smallest parts, in the way that we relate to their body, obviously, their privacy, their opinions, their beliefs. All of that is part of our job to try to maintain a person's, humility and dignity. Don't forget that we are coming into their home, into their private place, into their safe place, and we're a stranger. And I think that automatically that makes people feel perhaps being invaded, perhaps even though they've been waiting and wanting this help and need this help desperately in the care of, of their everyday life. But even so, it's a stranger that's coming into the safe place, and it causes anxiety, it causes stress, it causes, perhaps insecurity, all kinds of negative feelings. And most of you will probably feel the same, being a stranger in a strange home, in a strange place, so everybody is on edge and everybody is kind of testing each other. And I think that we have to keep in mind that it's our job, it's your job to, to be the leader in the situation, yes, to take charge. And we want to think about your patient's his dignity, right? Preserving his dignity. What is that made of? Well, first of all, we want to talk about autonomy. As I said before, a person that is in this kind of a disabled situation has lost so many things. Perhaps he's been even in mourning of all the things that he's lost, not even knowing it, sad, depressed, introverted. Let's not forget that Corona has put the whole world into a spin about, being in contact, being isolated, and disconnected from many circles of friends, community, activities, and so on. So one of the most important things that we want to keep in mind is maintaining a person's autonomy, okay? Autonomy is the capacity to make an informed and uncoerced decision, self-directing freedom, and especially moral independence. Give your patient the right to choose what he prefers to do, where he wants to go, and allow him to make his own decisions. This is very important that you're minded about this. People sometimes forget that if they're disabled, then they can't make decisions. Well, that's not true. They have to make their own decisions, and you have to be there for them to enable them to carry out those decisions, okay? Where they want to go, how they want to spend the day, what they want to eat, when they want to bathe. All the little things that make up their day-to-day life are their whole life. And, very important for them to be able to make the most minuscule of decisions, because that enables them to keep their dignity and have some control over their life. And in so many aspects, they've already lost control. So please be minded to maintain a person's autonomy is to continuously ask them what they would like, how they would want it, and to allow them to make those small decisions. Tolerance. Obviously, tolerance is very important because you're coming into a new situation that, different language, different culture, different social cues. Everything is different, and you must ask a lot of questions and be tolerant of the way people behave. Toleration is allowing and permitting or accepting an action, idea, or object, or a person which one can sometimes dislike or disagree with. Be tolerant to your patient and give yourself time to get to know each other. Even if you don't agree with them, sometimes or always respect them. So this is very important to be tolerant. And, everybody has preconceived notions about caregivers, about Filipinos, about strangers, about Christians, about Jews, about old people, about Israelis. Everybody has preconceived notions, and we must be very tolerant not to allow, these preconceived notions to manage our behavior. We want to get to know each one of our patients, clients, and of course their family as well. In order to be a good caregiver, a professional, this is part of the job. Empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within his frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. Definitions of empathy encompass broad range of emotional states. Try to empathize with your patient's physical and emotional condition. Well, this obviously is going to be kind of difficult, but of course, as part of the caregiving job, we do want to empathize. If they're in pain, if they're suffering, if they're sad, we can definitely try to empathize, understand, that this is their state of mind that they're in, and to understand it. But, very often it's difficult unless you know a person. I'm assuming that in the beginning, as you will be shy, probably they will be also. And it takes time, and you must be tolerant also of yourself, right? So everybody makes mistakes. So don't be turned off by, not knowing. And that's part of the beginning, to learn what's in your patient's heart and mind, and what his experiences in the past have been. Take the initiative, ask questions. You're walking around the home in the beginning and you see pictures and little knickknacks on shelves and all kinds of, different things. Ask where they bought them, what was the story behind it. Look at family albums. Ask them to explain to you who the people are. Trying to find out what was their job like, what were their triumphs, what were their disappointments. Most of the Israelis are immigrants. Israel is a young country, and it's a country of immigrants. So most likely the family, not everyone, but most likely the family that you're taking care of has immigrated at some point in their life from a different country, from a different culture. Perhaps even Hebrew is not their best language. Very often people in their old age revert to their mother tongue. Perhaps it's a different language, Russian, Arabic, Spanish, English, French. We don't know. But when you try to communicate, you want to know their story, their history, who are the important people in their lives, and so on. Part of learning to be empathetic is to know your client's story, right? Of course, compassion. I assume that anyone who has chosen this line of work and has made this big commitment to be so far away and to be in the atmosphere and in the caregiving field 24 hours a day must have this kind of a compassion in their personality. Part of everyone's personality is perhaps has an innate need to give. But being compassionate is something that's very important and primary in our caregiving profession. So all of that is part of the care that we give, right? Care is the provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, and maintenance and protection of someone or something. And so, of course, we have to know that, yes, family is trusting us with their loved ones, and it is our responsibility to care for them, to protect them, but not just that, but also to protect their property, their home, their well-being, right? This is a big job. And part of it is to, slowly get to know all that is involved. I also, recommend that you take the initiative to know who are the other people in the family that are more involved in caring. Most likely you won't be alone. It's probably, a group of children or brother, sister, who else is involved, who can be a partner to you. If you have difficulties, who can you share situations with or get advice from how to do things? Very important to have, other people that you can talk to in the family that are also involved in the caring. So, talked a little bit about values and things that we need to do. And I invite you to participate and perhaps share what is your opinion is the most important value in caregiving work. Are there any other values you believe that are important for caregiving work? This is a good time. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us if you've worked before abroad or in a caregiving situation in your home. Who wants to be first?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Hi,
I am Diana.
Diana. Nice to meet you, Diana. So you want to share with us, have you worked before as a caregiver abroad or in the Philippines?
Not in abroad, but it's in the Philippines. So, by the way, in our country, I am a school public teacher, and when I reached the 5 years in my work, I felt empty, and then I tried to search another job I will be that very welcoming to myself. So I found myself in a caregiving job in a medical field. So at first it was very challenging because it is literally and definitely totally different from my previous job. But when I met someone, which is my first patient, she's an Australian. And I am proud to say that until now, even though she's get back home in her country, which is in Australia, I have a constant communication her until now. So we're really good. We became really good friends, and I treated her as my family. So I think caregiving job is not just about the job. It is a passion. You have to have this dedication, and you have to love your job as well as your patient. We should have treat our patient as our own family. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, sometimes it takes a while, different kind of experiences until a person understands and knows what is the right calling for him. And so I hope that this will, be for you a continuation of what you feel to be your calling. Yes, thank you for sharing. I'll tell you a little bit about, being part of the family. I understand that you have this very special relationship with your Australian lady that you took care of. But being part of the family is something that you have to put with a question mark on top of it. And that's part of the difficulty, of the job. On the one hand, you must be emotionally involved. We'll talk about that another time more in detail. You must be emotionally involved when you're, dealing with a person in such a difficult time in his life. On the other hand, we have to keep guard for ourselves, right? We have to protect ourselves because this is a professional position that we're fulfilling. And so we have to, like a dance, 2 steps forward and a little bit backwards. So in terms of our emotions. But thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to talk about experience that they've had in caregiving and values that are important. We heard about tender loving care, which is absolutely important. Anyone else?
I'd like to add that if you've been taking care of a family member, you can share about that.
Any kind of a care situation that you've been with. Who wants to be next?
How many of you work as caregiver before?
Show of hands if you've had experience working before as a caregiver. Okay.
I can see just
Okay.
one.
No, there's more.
Two. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Right.
Thank you. So can you share about your experience? Good or bad?
Let's hear from one of the gentlemen with us. How about you, Roland? Have you had caregiving work experience before?
Jeff has.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us where?
Um, Actually, I don't have my experience in caregiving is only my family member because
Okay,
I am a
that's it.
career shifter in the job.
But you have experience in your family, right? Caring for someone in your family before?
Yes, ma'am. My grandfather, I was the one who been taking care of him before
Okay.
when he passed away.
Okay. And was that was that a positive experience that you decided to take it on as a job far away? What made you decide to continue this path?
I think also that it is in a positive way because I'd learned a lot in the medical field, how you treat your loved ones with care and compassion. I think that is the most important I have learned in this job. So I continued it and pursue it.
Okay. Thank you. So compassion and love, yes. I'll just say that, and that it's
Because
a little,
also my parents now is senior citizen, almost older. So I want to take care of her also when the time has come.
Mhm.
I want to become the one who is in.
Okay. So you see that as a life career. You plan to take care of your parents as well. Well, I assume
Yes, ma'am.
that,
Yes.
okay. Okay. Just, there is a difference between caring for someone in the family and caring for someone that's a stranger in a strange land. It's a different culture, different language. So, but when you come with, compassion and understanding in your heart, I'm assuming that the leap won't be so big, but it will be different for you. Okay.
Sarah? can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
You see the blue mark on your screen?
Oh, yes.
נמחק את זה מהרשימה, תלחצי בחר מועד או אזכיר לי מחר.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I wasn't paying attention to what appeared on my screen.
זהו, כאן זה נותן לך לפעול. Sorry everyone, I'll just explain it.
Just a minute.
לא,
Okay.
רגע, לא. כי היית צריכה לבחור שם מועד, ואז במקום שיחבל לך עכשיו את המחשב.
הוא יכבה לי?
הוא עלול לכבות לך ולעשות לך עדכון של ה...
אוי ואבוי לי. Okay, I hope that I don't have a problem with my computer. So
מקסימום
let's
אחד.
continue. Okay. Okay, so I want to continue about, okay, different subject. Important subject. Gender aspect and caregiving work. Okay, so what does it mean? I just want to say briefly and in general that, you know, most of us, all of us have one or another kind of gender that we identify with. I just want to say that, you know, today in the modern world, people have different ideas about gender than it has been in the past. And Israel is in general a very open society and is very tolerant of gender issues. But I would assume that your client and their family are probably, you know, more traditional in their thinking. And so perhaps this is something that may come up and may not. But I want to talk about gender roles, and this is very important. And I want you to know that we take things very seriously in Israel in terms of being approached inappropriately, okay? So a few facts about gender and care in general. Although most of the caregivers are women, there are also many men who are caregivers, especially when a man needs to be cared for. Some of the female caregivers provide care for a man or live in the home where there is a man. And some of the male caregivers provide care for a woman or live in a home where there is a woman. So firstly, you must understand that being a young person, male or female, coming into an older person's home, if there is a husband or a wife involved there as well, you must be minded that, you know, the dynamics of the family situation is going to change, okay? And there's going to be tension, and you must be sensitive to how that plays out, okay? And take action in order to alleviate any kind of tension or stress situation. Sometimes, you know, in spite of the fact that perhaps you're caring for the husband and the wife might become jealous, might become anxious. Oh, he's smiling at her. He doesn't smile at me anymore. Oh, or, you know, the caregiver, oh, he's doing this better. He's doing that better. Feelings of, you know, perhaps being displaced or not being important in this situation anymore. Someone is taking their place, you know, as the spouse, as the strong person, the caregiver. Sometimes the opposite. Sometimes people, you know, your client may see that someone is touching them in a caring way, in a gentle way, in a gentle voice. It may be misunderstood, you know, for you're going to be bathing them, dressing them, feeding them perhaps at one point or another. All of these kinds of interactions may somehow lead to inappropriate understanding of a situation. Yes, they may approach you sexually or try to interact with you sexually. That obviously is not the intention. So it's very important that you are minded that all of these kinds of feelings can be aroused in either your patient or the spouse if they're living there. And you must be very straightforward and approach the situation in a verbal, you know, look the person in the eye, tell them, this is not the intention, this is not the meaning, this is not what I want, and it's going to, you know, and it's not going to continue, it stops right here. You can continue to be gentle and kind and soft-spoken and touch your client, you know, whenever it's necessary, bathing them, feeding them, clothing them, even sometimes, you know, hand massage or whatever, shoulder massage, But if it is interpreted as a sexual attempt, then you must be minded to, to handle it in a very direct way. How does gender contribute to the caregiving relationship? Although women usually take care of children, adults, parents, spouses, and other family members, there are also men who have these abilities. Women naturally have the ability to care for others with empathy, compassion, concern, and love, but men can also have good caregiving abilities, and some men like to have to take care of their family or work in the care field. Your caregiving qualities are an asset. Be proud of them and use your caregiving abilities to provide good quality care. Again, if you are in any way feeling that you are being taken advantage of or misunderstood in any kind of a sexual approach, don't feel that you are alone. You can share this with family members, ask for their help. You can also ask for the social worker in the agency that you are placed with, and you have the number of the call service, right? That from the STEAMI organization. And this is not something that you need to tolerate, okay? It's totally inappropriate. We don't allow for it, and I do take the time to stress it here, okay? This is not part of your job. When treating a man or being close to the patient's spouse, sexual harassment can occur, and it's important to be aware of it. Here are a few tips on how to deal with sexual harassment. There is a YouTube presentation here that you can look at, on your own time. I want to make clear again, the fact that I'm talking about it doesn't necessarily mean that this is an encounter that you're going to have, okay? I'm assuming it won't. But even though we like to be open and direct about all kinds of, difficult situations that you may encounter. And yes, and it's not part of your job, okay? You have a job, it's a difficult one, long hours, big responsibility, definitely not to be harassed sexually. Again, I invite you to participate. And in this discussion, do you have any concern about being a man or woman as a caregiver? Do you think caregiving work is easier for a man or for a woman? And do you think caregiving will be harder or easier for you because you are a man or a woman? Would anyone like to share an experience that they've had being a man caring for a woman, or being a woman caring for a man, perhaps, or anything else that comes to mind? Hi,
Can I share?
please do.
Okay. For the number one, do you have any concerns about you being a woman or man a caregiver? So I just want to share like my experience before. When I was a newly graduate as a caregiver, because I studied it. I encountered having a patient, a couple, and then at first I was hesitant to accept it because they are a couple. So it is really my first time. So I found myself that if you have love and dedication to your job, which is the caregiving, and then you practice professionalism, then nothing will go wrong. So that's just what I want to say.
So you had no
Always
issues.
practice yes, always practice professionalism and respect
Okay.
your patient.
Okay, that's 99.9 percent of the time, that's always true. But sometimes people that may have dementia or have emotional issues, they may misunderstand, and perhaps they haven't had a tender, loving care in their life before. So sometimes, being all of a sudden in a very warm, caring environment may arouse different kinds of feelings or misunderstanding of feelings. So important to keep things in check. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you very much. It's
Yes,
not something that I want to scare you about. I just want you to be aware of.
it was very challenging because the mother was having a Alzheimer, and then her husband is having a dementia. So it was very challenging.
Two people with mental issues is very challenging.
Yes.
Okay. And you persevered and you withstood the situation. Okay. And you came back to do it here in Israel. So I commend you. Okay. Anyone else like to share a situation that they were taking care of a man or a woman? Doesn't have to be a problematic one, just one. We have a shy
Hello.
group. Yes, oh, we have a brave
Joshua, ikaw
person.
na daw. Joshua, Jeff, ikaw na daw.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your name?
Sam?
Now we can't hear you.
Hello, Jeff. I'm
Perhaps-
Jeff.
Perhaps if you, Jeff, if you close the camera, we can hear you better. Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a technical issue with the internet. Now,
Okay,
is it
now I hear you. Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to share something. If you're having a difficult situation about the patient, for example, you have dementia or Alzheimer's, it's not new to us. We have studied it for 6 months. So we have to restudy, like for dementia is for the stages of 1 to 3 stages of dementia, so that we're able to respond which we have to provide, which one we have to absorb, which one we have to give care, because each stages have its own corresponding response for the patient. And we all know that Alzheimer's is the late stage of dementia. So sometimes we have to respond according to the stage, because maybe the emotional state or compassion is not applicable to the dementia or the Alzheimer's. So it's just my suggestion. And also for the difficulties should always be not natural enough. So we have to restudy, research. We have Google, we have the internet. So I missed this one. So that you really be mentally prepared always, and you know how to respond. That's all what I can share, because during my studies, I've been in nursing, but I'm undergrad. So I used to have an on-the-job training on those institution of the home for the aged. It's very difficult. We different cases. So case basis, we have to be mentally prepared. That's all I can share for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I think that, yes, you have a, theoretical background and perhaps experience as well, taking care of dementia patients, which I'm sure will will be useful to you. But, you must be not just prepared, intellectually for what may come, but also, on your own emotional strength, because, you know, when you work in an institution, you work your 8 hours, 10 hours, even double shifts. In the end, you go home, you close your eyes, you close the door, and you have your own life. Here, being a live-in caregiver is more difficult. Obviously, it's a 24-hour job for many days on end. And yeah, and like I said, you have to be able to persevere, know, you know, professionally how to deal with situations, but also to, you know, preserve yourself. To preserve yourself, find what gives you strength, what gives you relaxation, what gives you, you know, the ability to go on, right? Because it's not a regular job kind of thing. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and more subjects to discuss. Thank you, Valentine. Thank you. 5 minutes, guys.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Okay. One of the other many things you'll have to learn is a little bit of Hebrew, or a lot of Hebrew, hopefully. Okay. I invite you, you know, to have any questions about things I talk about or other issues. You're welcome to, you know, to ask. We, you know, at the end of the of my talk here, I'll invite you again to ask any questions about anything and everything. Feel free. Intercultural encounter. Okay, that's what we're all in for, an intercultural encounter. Intercultural differences are differences in tradition, food, norms, beliefs, values, which vary between nations, people, ethnic groups, and speakers of different languages. Every culture has its own way of expressing itself. Every culture has its own ways of defining conflict, passing messages, resolving conflict, and talking about it. Every culture has its own way to express emotions and talk about emotions. I'll just say that, you know, in general, Israelis are probably, if you've never been to a Middle Eastern country or encountered Israelis or Jewish people, I'm assuming that this is going to be a new experience for you. On the whole, I would say that people in the Middle East, or in Israel at least, are a little, how would I say it, a little more aggressive, a little pushy, less polite that you might have encountered in other cultures. And you know, this is just the way things are, not necessarily against anyone, just in general. How to adjust to a new culture. Okay, be patient and give yourself time. It's important that you keep your culture and customs and traditions if you want to, and of course, if it's important to you. And a few tips on how to adjust to a new culture is here on this YouTube presentation that may be helpful to you. You can watch that on your own time. I'll just say that, you know, you've probably, you know, heard some things about Jewish culture, about dietary laws and different things that different, you know, how many types of Christians are there? I would say quite a few. How many types of Jews are there? Many, many different types. So it's kind of difficult to talk to you about, you know, how to behave in a kitchen or how to behave, you know, during Shabbat or during holidays. It all has to do with learning the specifics of the specific family that you're going to be, you know, taking care of. Because in every family, it's different. Some people are very, you know, strict about one thing and not so strict about another thing, or, you know, you just have to learn and ask many questions, write things down. You'll make mistakes. It's not, you know, that's how we are. When we work, we make mistakes until we become, you know, proficient in what we do. You must not be insulted or, you know, or take to heart if people, you know, if the family asks you not to go into the kitchen at first, or not to touch things, to put your food separately, and, you know, to eat separately. until they know you and trust you, that you honor their traditions in terms of food and cleanliness and Shabbat and kashrut. Don't be insulted, and it's just their way of making sure that these things are important to them, that no one, makes mistakes in terms of things that are important to them. Okay, so when you first come into the home, you'll talk about different things, where your space is, where your room is, where where your bed, your closet, and don't be shy about asking questions, where they expect you to put your food, or when you can eat, or what you can eat, or all of those things are very important. And it's, like I said, it's a negotiation process until you get to know them, how they behave in those things, and how you would like to behave in those situations. And it takes time to get to know each other. Okay, so you must be minded not to be insulted or put off or whatever. Okay, so have you heard something about Israeli culture? What have you heard? Do you have any concerns about adjusting to Israeli culture? Do you have any questions about Israeli culture? I invite you to participate. This is the time to ask. And, has anyone been abroad, encountered a different culture in some aspect of, being a tourist or working abroad?
Yes,
Jeff, where have you been?
I have been to Abu Dhabi for 8 years.
Oh, long time. What did you do there?
I used to work in a gas station in food section, serving
Oh,
food.
okay. Serving food.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you know Arabic?
Little Arabic, just business Arabic, daily
Business.
Arabic.
Okay. But you being, serving food and being in a service related position, so you've encountered a lot of people, how they behave, what their preferences are, how they behave to strangers. Okay, so this is
Yes.
a different kind of an encounter. What was the hardest part
Yeah.
of the job?
Hardest part job is handling different customers, because some customers are generally Arabic. Maybe it's the same with Israeli. It's like very frank, yeah, straightforward like that.
Very straightforward. I don't know about people in Abu
I learned.
Dhabi, but that's how they are in Israel.
Mhm, straightforward also.
Yes,
At
very
first, I was
straightforward.
like they have very, very loud voice, no, like that. I used to learn for how many years that it's how they really are, just loud voice, straightforward, but it means nothing to them. It's just the way they are, they talk like that.
You're absolutely right. Very loud, straightforward. Yes, they tell you all, you're too big, you're too small, you're too fat, you're too late, you're this, you're that. No beating around the bush. Yes, and loud. And they use a lot of body language, a lot of hand gestures, all kinds of things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're being attacked. It just means that this is how they communicate. You're very right. Very much like we do in Israel. Okay, doesn't mean you have to behave that way. Just means that, this is how people are very often. Not everyone, but even
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Anyone else like to share an experience about being abroad as a tourist or as a worker?
This is my first time working in abroad, but I have dealt different cultures. Like the first couple I took care of, like in caregiving, it's just that what I've said earlier. They are both Chinese, and then the next one, which is the Australian, and then her husband is an Indian, so I've dealt with different cultures, so a lot of adjustment. But as time goes by, so when I'm with them, I tried also to cooperate and respect their cultures, and I help also myself by searching in Google uh what's their culture, what's their like, and they don't like, something like that.
Okay, so it's a learning experience as well to learn about somebody else's culture and to be, yes, and to be sensitive. So I think that, if we look back at the slide before, and it says on the bottom, every culture has its own way to express emotions and talk about emotions. That's true. But I think that on a personal level, I think that strangers don't really, talk about emotions. It's only when you become, friends, or you feel close to someone, that you feel comfortable. Everyone feels more comfortable in expressing emotions. So I think that um, yes, it's a time to adjust, because you're the stranger, you're the new one, you're the one that's, the different one. And it is your responsibility as the caregiver in charge, in the family, to, right, to find the place um, that they want you to be in. Okay. Sometimes, caregivers want to be part of the family, but the family doesn't want you to be part of the family. They want you to be a caregiver and not, to have a different place, maybe on the side, maybe in the back, maybe in the front. But don't be offended, because this is the kind of interaction that you learn what their expectations are, where they want to, where they think is your place as well. Okay, so it's and you must understand that for many, I would assume for almost everyone, they've never had a live-in caregiver before. Perhaps they've had people come in and do different things, clean, cook, take them places, take care of their medical issues. But someone who would be responsible for everything is probably a new situation for them as well. And so defining, space. Where are you supposed to sit in the evening? Can you sit in the living room, watch television with them, or do you have to sit in your room? Can you be outside in the terrace? Do you need to sit in the kitchen? What? How do you define the space of the home? In which part is your privacy? Which part is their privacy? People that are used to living alone, sometimes it doesn't feel comfortable to have someone all the time around, hovering over them. It, makes them feel a little uneasy. So all of those things, you're in charge. You must be sensitive, but with the main purpose to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And yes, this is a challenge, right? Because you don't pick up on all the cues. And perhaps they would be frustrated as well, assuming that you would know how to deal with, Shabbat or kitchen issues in terms of dietary laws, And so write things down just to make sure that, you do remember if there's a lot of detail. And if you're not sure, ask and ask again. This is, best advice. Ask and ask again. And don't forget to smile. Anyone else like to share situation or questions? Anything? What have you heard about Israelis? Anyone have heard anything about Israelis from family or friends?
We heard in a religious setup that sometimes I don't know if it is sometimes or most, or it is really a must or necessary, that if you are in a religious family, you should have, or you must wear, if you're a woman caregiver, you must wear a skirt. Is that true? A long skirt, I think.
I will say that, part of part of religious people's how should I say it, customs does involve clothing and apparel. So if they're very religious, then and they live in a religious neighborhood, then they would expect you to be dressed in accordance, where either wearing a skirt, not exposing legs, not exposing shoulders, elbows, whatever is appropriate, in their situation. There are communities that, yes, that have pretty, pretty, how should I say it, not strict, but they have dress codes that are appropriate in their neighborhoods. So, even if I would go there in the neighborhood, I would dress appropriately. Otherwise, I would feel uncomfortable and make them feel uncomfortable. So, yes, that's possible. It depends on where you're placed. Do you know where you're going to be placed?
In Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem. Okay, so yeah, there are some religious neighborhoods that dress code is definitely a part of it. And I live in Tel Aviv, but I lived for many, many years in Jerusalem, most of my life. And once you familiarize yourself with different areas in Israel, you'll understand that Jerusalem is a much more conservative, religious kind of atmosphere. And Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other cities are not so at all. So yeah, you have to adjust yourself to whatever is appropriate in that family, obviously, right? Okay. Anyone else have questions or thoughts that?
I think no one else. I'd like to ask something.
Please do.
I'd like to ask something about the food culture of Israel. Is it similar to Arabic?
I would say in general influence, yes, because we are in the Middle East. And so there, you've probably been familiar with hummus and trina and falafel and, kebabim and all of those things. But like I said before, Israel, we like to think of ourselves as metropolitan, with influences from Europe and everywhere. And so many restaurants have all kinds of, food available, Asian food, of course. And there are supermarkets that carry all the Asian spices and products. And there are, stores that, Asians run with, with all the things imported from wherever, all over the world. I would say that
It's called fusion.
Fusion, okay.
Yeah, because it mixed with all kinds of cultures, and you will find that in the Israeli kitchen or restaurant, you will find a mix.
And if you go to the market, you will find anything and everything that you're interested. Markets from, like bigger cities, maybe not the smaller ones, but like open air markets carry everything. And I would also say that, because we're a country of immigrants, then, different from South America, Africa, Asia, Europe. So it really, food that is eaten in the family that you are going to be caring for is really dependent on them.
Thank you. And
Absolutely.
one more, Miss
Go ahead.
Sarah, about food timing. I think I like to talk about in the Philippines. We have breakfast. It's around about 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Then lunch and dinner. So we have 3 times. But in between, we have snacks. I don't know what is the settings here in Israel, because in the breakfast we eat rice, lunch we eat rice, dinner we eat rice. sometimes in snacks we eat rice. I don't know. Maybe here in morning. I don't know with the Israelis. They eat bread or.
I will tell you. Again,
Okay.
I'll tell you what the general menu is, but but then it's very individual, right? So basically, we eat a lot of fresh vegetables for breakfast and for dinner. Okay, usually salad. I'll talk about, you can eat anything and everything, obviously. And if you go to a restaurant, the breakfast menu will have a really big variety of everything you can think of. But what I'm saying is that perhaps in institutions, which tries to cater for everyone, so breakfast is usually cheese, eggs, bread, jam, and fresh vegetables, I think. And also perhaps, like hot cereal from oatmeal and or perhaps from semolina. And so that is like, the classic breakfast kind of tray. And then dinner is probably similar, perhaps with maybe some soup, vegetable soup or something. Israelis eat the hot meal of the day in the middle of the day. What we would call lunch is usually a cooked hot meal. And that would have, meat, vegetables, grains, all kinds of grains. We eat a lot of the lentils. We eat a lot of, how do you say, root vegetables, right? But all kinds of vegetables. I think that that's the hot meal of the day. I'll tell you, I've never been to the Philippines, but I've traveled a little bit in Asia, and I know that especially in restaurants that cater to people from Asia, they serve chicken and rice in the morning, which is always, mind-boggling to me to eat that in the morning. And then when I go to Europe and they serve me hot dogs and and I don't know, and pork in the morning, I think that's a little weird also. So, I would assume that you will be able to, provide for yourself anything that is appropriate for you. You'll have the use of the kitchen, and don't be shy. Don't be shy. Food is an important part of everyone's life, especially when, entertainment becomes limited to what's on the screen. And I encourage you, of course, to be very active and, maintaining relationships with friends and family and, whatever groups you belong to through the internet is obviously very important to maintain. If you have, ambitions in cooking, you have skills and you also have experience, in the kitchen. Yeah, perhaps you can use your charm to introduce the family that you're going to be with your skills. It's all about charming everybody.
I would like to add that regarding to your employer, you will probably get from the family the schedule when it's their time, their breakfast, lunch, when to serve them the food. You will get probably, or I recommend to make a list of the things that they like to eat, that they normally eat. And of course, ask them in the morning or before lunch, give them the opportunity to share, to say what they want to eat. But normally you have their fixed food. Sometimes they like different things. And of course, like Sarah said, for yourself, you can have whatever you like for breakfast. So, and I recommend to make a list, a schedule, and write everything down and get as much information as you can from the family or whoever closest to the employer.
Okay, I invite you to ask any questions about anything that you like. I'll just say a few things in general. First of all, we have a very good health system in Israel. It's a public health system. It has different agencies, or companies that we all belong to, either one or the other. And you will also be, part of that health program, one of the companies. And if you have any health issues at all, then you're able to approach one of the clinics and get anything that you need. And also we have very readily available all kinds of aids that will assist you if you need equipment in order to facilitate the care that you're going to be giving in a better way, whether it's in the bathing and, in lifting and transporting in the kitchen, anything that you may need, any kind of equipment, it's all readily available. I won't say that it's completely without cost, but it, usually it's something reasonable and not an issue to acquire. So, if you do need any kind of products for, for taking better care of your client, then you must voice your needs with the family and allow them. Perhaps they don't know, what is available and how to make their life easier and also easier for you, obviously. What else can I tell you in general? You're going to enjoy your stay in Israel. It's going to be it's going to be a fun time. Lots of places to visit. Lots of, Israel is we like to think of ourselves as the navel of all three major religions. Anyone want to ask something? Did someone open their mic to say something? Okay. So yes, visit the holy places. Small country, but a lot to see. Take advantage of your days off to travel. Make friends.
Hello, again, it's me.
Yes, Jeff, go ahead. Everyone
It's
else
Jeff
is shy,
again.
they lose. The ones that are brave win. Ask
Yeah.
it.
I'd like to ask about the train station system. Is it also closed during Shabbat or is it open?
Okay, so public transport, buses and trains and are closed during Shabbat, which Shabbat starts Friday, depending on, sunset and until sunset on Saturday. But there is usually alternative transportation during that time. Depending on where you are, there are taxis, there are shared taxis. Some places they do have buses. I think in Haifa, there's more public transportation available, Tel Aviv, maybe even more. Other cities, I'm not really sure, but there's always, transportation available. It might be a little more costly. I think Anat will also talk to you about how to use public transportation if she hasn't yet with the card, and that we download money on, and also that there is an app that she'll probably send you a link to with taxis. It's called Get Taxi, and recommended that you use that because they are all affiliated to, to this application, and they're trustworthy and they don't cheat you on the price, and so I would, if you need to go somewhere and use a taxi, that I would suggest that you order it from there. It's called Get Taxi. And there's also an app that you can download on your phone, and it's called Move It, and it will, show you, very easy to use, how to get from any point to any point with, walking, bicycle, cab, bus, when the next one is coming, where it's located, the stop. Good app to have for transportation.
I just like to add that about the public transportation, the second report session that I sent you, you have I think 2 slides regarding to the public transportation, and after our final meeting, I will send those links that Sarah mentioned.
Okay, 2 apps, good to have on your phone. Move It and Get Taxi. Okay. I definitely want to say that Israel is in general a safe place to, to be. You can walk around at night, usually, feel safe. And most places use your common sense. I wouldn't go in a dark alley by myself late at night. But if you're in a big city in a lighted, general area, not supposed to be an issue. And never hitchhike, never. Always know how you're going to go from one point to the other when your transportation is available to you, and that you have, of course, the means to pay for them. Yeah, not to get stuck.
I've got last question. It's very important to me. It's about, I don't know the settings here in Israel, because in Philippines, we have a general rule at night. We cannot go out about our house like 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. We called it curfew. So the police will catch us if we saw us walking there. I don't know if it happens here.
No way. No. No curfew.
Okay. I
No
was afraid.
curfew. Anywhere. You can go anywhere you want, anytime you want. I think we only had curfew. When was it? In the pandemic? When was it? Don't
Yeah.
even remember. The first week of the pandemic, when the whole world was, under stress, not knowing what's going on. This was like 2 years
Yeah.
ago. So for a week, I think we had a curfew, but that's it. No curfew.
Okay, so it's true. Philippines has the longest curfew in the world.
Because of pandemic, they have this curfew now?
Yes, until now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe maybe you don't. But most of Israelis have been vaccinated for the third time. And even today on the radio in the morning, I heard that the number of cases are going down all the time, and they're, allowing almost, everything to be open, and just like before pandemic, almost. You still need to wear a mask in public, small closed areas, but otherwise, no. But basically, we're doing well in terms of
Okay, thank you
pandemic
for the
here.
information.
No problem. Any questions about any issues, please
Yeah.
feel free.
Yeah, I see most people walking around. I see in my window, they're not wearing masks. They seem so confident. I see maybe the cases is going down really.
They're going
That's good.
down, and the general rule now is that outside we don't need to wear masks, and we don't wear masks. It's also pretty hot still, so it's very, very uncomfortable to wear masks. But if we go inside, if you go on a bus, in a public transportation, in a restaurant, at a store, then you do put your mask on. And I think most people comply to that. It's for your own safety. If you went to the supermarket, but outside, no.
Mhm. Thank you. Toda. Toda Raba.
Alo davar, we say alo davar. So I will teach you one thing before we part ways for the day. So perhaps, Jeff, you've already encountered this in the Middle East. You kind of cup your fingers together and you turn your hand around and you wave it up and down.
Yes,
Ah, what is, how do you say, what do you say?
Sure.
Shwai shwaya, yes. And we say in Hebrew, rega rega. Shwaya shwaya means slowly, slowly. And in Hebrew, we say rega rega, yes. So this is a gesture when you smile and you say, and you say rega rega, then you're already speaking Hebrew.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. So if there's no more questions, Anat, I think we can wrap it up for today, and we shall meet again tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. Hold on a second. It may be 9 or 9:30. I will let you know a bit later, and later today, I will send you the link. I will send you many information after today's session, and it will be less than what we received on Friday. And later on, I will send you a form with some questions that I would like you to answer and send back. Okay? So thank you, everyone. And it's been lovely to see you.
Okay, guys, enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Sarah.
And we will be in touch tomorrow morning.
Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.